Hi everyone, my name's Joanna Terry and I'm Head of Archives and Heritage for Staffordshire County Council, and one of my other job titles is Librarian for the William Salt Library. Now I'm stood on the doorsteps of the library and there's only me here because, like every other public building at the moment, we're not open to the public. So I thought I'd take this chance to show you around the library so you can get to see inside and tell you about this interesting building and the collections that we hold. So if you've ever wondered what is going on behind that door of that building in Eastgate Street in Stafford, then come and follow me and I'll take you on a little tour of the building. And as we go into the door, I'm going to pan around and I want you to have a look at the number of the house as we go in, and I will tell you more about that when we get inside the building. So hopefully you spotted that we came into 19 Eastgate Street. The library is actually made up of two buildings, 18 and 19 Eastgate Street. These buildings were acquired by the William Salt Library Trust in 1918 and they've been the home of the library since this date. They're quite different buildings. 19 is a Georgian townhouse and 18 is a Victorian cottage. I'll give you just some brief history of the buildings before they became a library. We don't have any early deeds for the property, but recent research of our Staffordshire History Centre project suggests that the site had been laid out as burgess plots in the medieval period, and this is based on the pattern of gardens visible on an 1881 Ordnance Survey map of Stafford. 18 Eastgate Street was originally constructed as an office in the early 19th century, probably by Francis Brooks the Younger, who was a solicitor. He's listed in a trade directory as a solicitor and town clerk living at 19 Eastgate Street. When he died in 1836, his executors sold 18 and 19 Eastgate Street to Thomas Davis Weaver, who'd been Francis Brooks' last legal partner. He carried on using 18 as an office and then rented 19 to Miss Alicia Tompkinson. A legal dispute in the Court of Chancery led to eventually John Smallcross being declared the beneficiary of Francis Brooks' estate. By 1881, William Henry Dorman, later of Dorman Diesels in Stafford, was living at 19 Eastgate Street. The company that he worked for was founded by William Henry Dorman in 1869 on Foregate Street, and of course he's known to many in the town for manufacturing cutting tools for the footwear industry, and then soon produced more specialised machinery such as printing, sewing and grinding machines. The properties were purchased in 1895 from John Smallcross by Dr. Francis Marson. He was District Medical Officer and Consultant Surgeon to the County Infirmary. He used 19 Eastgate Street as his home and a dispensary and consulting room. Later on, his practice extended into 20 Eastgate Street. 18 was rented out as a shop during this time. And then in 1918, the trustees of the William Salt Library acquired the building, and this has been its home for over 100 years. However, it's not its first home, but I'll tell you more about that later on the tour. So where we're standing now is the entrance hall, which you come into when you visit the library. I said it was a Georgian building, and it certainly has some nice Georgian features. This includes the fan light above the front door as you come in, which is a typical Georgian feature. We've also got some original shuttering, which you can see there. At the moment, all shut up because we're closed to the public, but normally it's open when the library is open. And then some of the really nice features that we found out more about during our Staffordshire History Centre project research are the interior doors. These are original Georgian doors with all the fittings complete as well. So I'm going to take you through the first door into our reading room. So here we are in the reading room, and immediately on your left is a picture of the man whose library this is. This is William Salt. It's his collection of books and manuscripts that make up the library today. And I am asked the question most often, who was William Salt anyway? So I'll tell you just a little bit about him. He was actually a London banker. He was born in 1808 and he died in 1863. And here's a few interesting facts. He never lived in this building that we're standing in today. In fact, he never lived in the town or even the county. He lived in London. And when he'd made his money, he spent it on amassing a collection of important printed books, pamphlets, manuscripts, drawings, watercolours and transcripts, many of which relate to Staffordshire. And when he died, his widow, fortunately, was persuaded by the county people at the time to donate the collection to the county of Staffordshire rather than it being sold. This collection is the finest and most complete printed manuscript collection which focuses on our county of Staffordshire. It's got many items of national significance, such as the COMPTON census, a religious census of 1676, and Anglo-Saxon charters. Since its transfer to the William Salt Library Trust in 1872, the collection's been in many different places. It's been housed in the cellars of Shugborough and in Old Bank House on Market Square in Stafford, and now it resides in 18 and 19 Eastgate Street. So while the collection and the building in which it's housed are owned by the William Salt Library, which is a registered charity, Staffordshire County Council gives an enormous amount of support and assistance for the management and staffing of the library. The room that we're in now is the room that some of you may be familiar with. This is the main reading room for the library, and here you can see all the books relating to our county. The collections in here are on public access, and they're actually housed on some of the original shelving from the older William Salt Library in Market Square. We have a selection of books on various subjects, but some that people are most frequently asked for are parish histories. So if there's a book or small pamphlet printed about the history of the area that you live, it's quite likely that we will hold a copy in the library. For example, we've got a book here that's on Abbots Bromley, and we also hold books on other parts of the county, including Newcastle-Under-Lyme and also Penkridge, and of course we have lots of books on Stafford itself. I'm going to take you into the next room adjacent to the reading room. This is called the GREENSLADE room. Many of the rooms in the library are named after former trustees. This room is named after Michael Greenslade, who was chair of the William Salt Library Trust and also editor of the Victoria County History. The Victoria County History is still being written today, and the staff are still based at the William Salt Library. The current editors are Nigel Tringham and Andrew Sargent. With the support of Keele University and also Staffordshire County Council's Archive and Heritage Service, the work still carries on today. As we go through the door, I want you to take notice of the big step, not just because I don't want to fall down it, but it also shows that we're going into a different building. We're now actually in 18 Eastgate Street. So this is the Victorian cottage part of the building. And you can see it's a slightly different set of proportions. It's lower on the ground, but it's also lower in height of the ceilings. Whilst it's still part of the library, it would have been a separate building, and the doorway that we came through would have been opened up when the trustees expanded the library throughout the whole building. Lots of people comment on our lovely card indexes. Certainly, we would quite like to get all of this information online, and we are working really hard so that we can get information in the card catalogue into our online catalogue. So please do check our online catalogue for up-to-date information. But don't forget, some of it is still on a card index in the library, and you might need to contact us. So the books in this room, instead of being based around the places in our county, are based around the people. These include biographies of individuals such as the Wedgwood family and Josiah Wedgwood, but they also include some more recent personalities from Staffordshire, such as Nigel Slater. So we have modern biographies as well. Nigel Slater is a well-known chef from Wolverhampton. I'm now going to take you upstairs in the library. So we're leaving the public rooms that many visitors to the William Salt Library have got the chance to see. Now we're taking you behind the scenes. As we go up the stairs, when I get to the top, I'm going to point my camera at something behind me, which is one of the curiosities of this building. So we have a door that leads to nowhere. That's what it looks like. However, the research that we've done for our conservation management plan for the building would indicate that yes, the stairs have been turned round, so at one point they would have faced the other way, and the door did go somewhere, and I'll show you more of that later on. We're now in the WROTTESLEY room. WROTTESLEY was, yes, you've guessed it, another one of those William Salt Library trustees. Got lots of different collections in here. We've got quite a lot of items that are printed editions of Staffordshire County Council minutes. So whilst we have the original archive set in the County Record Office next door, we also have a printed set in the William Salt Library that people can access. Another really useful source that we've got are things such as the County Council's yearbooks. These little volumes are like diaries for the County Council each year, and it would tell you the minutes, the meetings that occurred, and who the members were of the various committees. We've got some of the similar volumes for the district councils as well. These ones are for Leek and for Lichfield. Another source that people come and use the library for are parish newsletters. Here we've got a bound set for St Bernadette's Catholic Church in Womburn. The parish newsletters tell you about everyday life in the parish, which you don't find out about by looking at the registers for the church. So it will tell you about those births and marriages, but also those anniversaries and those celebrations that occurred in everyday life in the church. One of the publications that we've got in the William Salt Library, for which we've got a very, very long run, is the Gentleman's Magazine. This was a monthly magazine of news, commentary and satire. It also reprinted essays, poems and extracts from other books and periodicals. It was founded in 1731 and ran until 1922. The founding editor of the magazine was Edward Cave, who often wrote under the name of Sylvanus Urban. Contributions often took the form of letters addressed to Mr. Urban, and debates conducted through such letters could run over a number of issues. Samuel Johnson of Lichfield, he worked for the magazine from the late 1730s to the mid-1740s for a time, contributing to almost every issue. Now for a real sneak peek. Not only do we hold the collection in this building, this is where our staff would normally work in the library. So I would normally be sitting next door to two colleagues who'd be working on projects. At the moment, they're all working at home. So while nobody's here, I can point out to you some other nice features of the building. This is a really nice fireplace. There's some lovely tiles in, possibly Minton tiles, we're not sure. And then do you remember that doorway? Where did it go? Well, it went to a bookcase behind this bookcase. So if we were able to move the bookcase, we would see the door. So we're going to go through to the next room from the Tyldesley room, and we're going back from the Victorian cottage back into the Georgian townhouse. So the Tyldesley, he was, yes, you've guessed it, another trustee. And this trustee came from Wolverhampton. And some of you might have detected a slight Wolverhampton accent. It's where I come from. So this is actually my office. So I'm in the office today so that I can show you my behind the scenes tour of the William Salt Library. So in this room, which is also my office, we have books on national, archaeological, historical and genealogical journals. So you can see a set here of the genealogical magazine. And we've got huge runs of these journals. And for these items that are kept in the upstairs rooms, people have to put in a request to see them. So that's why it's important to get information into our catalogue so that people know what they can ask for. Now, I'm feeling a bit tired, so I feel like I might need to take the weight off my feet. So I'm going to come and sit down in this chair over here. It's not just any chair, this is what's known as the librarian's chair because it's from the original old library. So I've got two photographs here that are in our collection, and I shall zoom in there and hopefully you can see on the left of the picture at the bottom is the chair. So these pictures are from the William Salt Library when it was in Market Square. So when it opened in 1872, Helen Salt, William's widow, she got fed up of waiting for the trustees to work out where to put the collection, which, if you remember, was sitting in Shugborough whilst it was waiting for a home. So the Helen Salt appealed to the banking family that was William Salt's family, and they gave them a building which was what is now the Stafford Railway Building Society. And if you go into Market Square, you can see the original library and you can see it carved into stone. Another original item that we've got from the library is the librarian's bell. So it now lives in my office and we don't use it any longer. There is a doorbell to get into the library, but we don't actually use this librarian's bell anymore to summon the librarian or assistant librarian to help you. But yeah, it's really nice to have these original items from the library's collection. Okay, so we're at the back of the William Salt Library building now. We're about to go into SAH Burne room again. SAH Burne was a chair of the trustees. He was quite a collector himself, and he had quite an influence on the library. Now in this room, which you can see has more of this original oak shelving, we can see quite a lot of William Salt's original printed book collection. So as you found out when I pointed out the biographies, we do still buy books for the library, but the core of the collection is William Salt's own printed book collection, and it's a really fine collection. So you can see we've got some really large volumes. We've got some parliamentary writs. Those are these brown volumes here. We have also got, if we come along to this side of the room, we've got some more, again, wonderfully bound items, and we've got our earliest printed book, which is this tiny little book here, which is called The New Books of Justices of the Peace and Surveying. So I'm just going to bring it over to the window so that you can have a closer look at this book. It was printed, we think, about 1541 to 1546. You can see you've got the library stamp there, and that's the typeface that it's written in, which I think you'll agree is not necessarily the easiest typeface to read. So yeah, something that is really, it's a really beautiful little book, something that we're really proud to have. So as I said, we are at the back of the building here. You can see the lovely original windows, and you can probably perhaps get your bearings now. So in effect, we are looking out onto what was the library's back garden. Now, as you can see, there's a building in the back garden, and that's the Staffordshire Record Office, also known as the County Record Office, built in 1960. And basically, the trustees of the William Salt Library sold a part of their back garden to the County Council so that a record office could be built for the archive collections, because the William Salt Library had been acting as a sort of quasi record office, and by 1960 there was no room at the library, and there was no room in county buildings, which was where the county council and earlier official records of the county were being kept. So a brand new record office was built in 1960. So just coming over here to some more of the fine original shelving, you'll see that some of the books are in little grey boxes. You can see a few there, and I'm just going to bring you over to a volume that I fetched out of its grey box. So this is again, another really important book. So we have got, hopefully you can read that side on, A Dictionary of the English Language, Volume 1, Samuel Johnson. So we've got an original edition of Samuel Johnson's dictionary. And the reason that they are in these grey boxes is they're what's called clamshell boxes, because they open a bit like a clamshell and they fit really snugly around the volumes that we hold, and they protect them from light and from dust. It makes it easier for us to get them off the shelf. So every time we do some repair and conservation work to the library's books, which we do a portion each year, then a repaired book, a conserved book, goes into a clamshell box. And you can see here there's been work on the binding to Samuel Johnson's dictionary. And I'm just going to, at random, let's just see where the dictionary lands. And I am homing in, yes, an adventure. Yes, an accident, a chance, a hazard. An event of which we have no direction. Well, I suppose you could say it's a bit of an adventure in the life at the moment. We're having a little bit of an adventure looking around the library. Okay, we're going to go back downstairs, but I thought I'd stop and show you a couple of paintings in the library that are just on the stairs. So this, and if anybody recognises, I'm going to zoom in and give you a bit of a clue. So we've got some things dangling off a line. There's a W there, and we've got a fish on the frame. So hopefully that gives you a clue. And the other letters are IZ. So yeah, this is a painting of IZAAK Walton. So again, this is one of the items in the library's collection. So I'm going to pause there, and then I'm going to take you to another painting. So as we make our way downstairs on another landing, we've got another famous character from Staffordshire, and he's gazing off into the distance. This is a pastel drawing, sort of black and sort of terracotta chalk drawing. And if I zoom in, hopefully you can see who that is, and it's David Garrick, the famous actor from Lichfield. Again, one of the other lovely items that we have in the libraries. Okay, so we're back on the ground floor of the William Salt Library, and we're right at the far end, and we're actually going to go into a very modern room. So we've looked around quite a number of Georgian and Victorian rooms, but we're going to go into what is a very recent building, built 1994, and this is the actual purpose-built strong room for the library. So in here we have got the most precious things in the collection, and they all tend to be from Salt's original collection, so the items that he collected during his lifetime. And because they are the items that are potentially the oldest or the rarest, or just because they are his original collection, they are in one of our purpose-built strong rooms, where we can manage the conditions that the collection is kept in, keep it to the right temperature and humidity. And you can see that in this room, as I sort of pan around, that there are no windows in this room. That's deliberate. Keeping sunlight out is a good thing for books and manuscripts. It means that they are less likely to fade and become brittle. So it helps to preserve them for, or hopefully, forever. And you can see we've got quite different shelving here. We've got some modern mobile shelving, which we can turn by hand, and then we can move a bay of shelves along, and you can see that we can actually store things really effectively and efficiently, so we can get more things stored. And where we can box things, we do, because that also helps to protect them from dust, from light, and ultimately if there should be any problems and any leaks, which we hope wouldn't occur, then a box will protect an item from anything wet or anything dripping on it. So instead we keep some of the really old items and the also precious things from William Salt's original collection. And I'm just going to show you one of the items from his collection. We have many volumes, but this is one of his original manuscripts, and he was really interested in genealogy and family history, and that includes his own family history. So he was interested in the family of Salt, and this volume is a collection of pedigrees and coats of arms for families in the county in Staffordshire, and I've got the pages open at the Salt family. And so there is a description here of the coats of arms for this is for John Stevenson Salt, who is an ancestor relation of William Salt, who's from Weeping Cross in Stafford itself, and it describes in heraldic description that there is, and you can see here, I'll get a sheet of paper rather than put my finger on there, which can damage the book. So it says we have an argent, a chevron, we come down here, rompu between 3 mullets, and in chief. And then it carries on using the heraldic descriptions for the coat of arms for John Stevenson Salt, and it's granted by the College of Arms. And if we turn a couple of pages, and I'm not wearing gloves because gloves are great, but they mean that you can't actually turn the pages very easily, and you can see I'm struggling a bit even with my own fingers. So if you wear gloves, it makes it difficult to turn the page and then you can tear them, but we do use gloves when we're handling certain types of material. So here we've got a quarter ring of Salt, so it's a representation of the Salt family of arms quartered with others. These arms were for Thomas Salt of Yoxall, and again they were confirmed by the College of Arms. And if we go further over, we've got another set of coat of arms for Thomas Salt Esquire of Weeping Cross in Staffordshire, and then we've got his arms impaled with those of Lane. And finally, if we turn over, we will get to William Salt's own coat of arms. So we've got some more members of the Salt family. And then here we go, we have got the arms of William Salt of London, and they're granted by Cook Claremont in College of Arms. And then we have a really nice example, and then here we've got a really colourful example of the coats of arms of William Salt Esquire of London, and he's put the Staffordshire Antiquary, and they've been painted by B. Nightingale. They are really lovely, and that's how he saw himself, really, a Staffordshire antiquary, very proud of the history of the county and very proud of his own history. Okay, so we are back in the main reading room, and I'm going to take you into the last room of the tour. So this is known as the Trustees room, and has another fine original panel door. And what I want to show you is these brass fittings, because underneath there's this really nice little catch which keeps the door secure. And we'll go into the Trustees room. It's called the Trustees room because this is where the William Salt Library Trust has its meetings. So it meets about 3 times a year and discusses the library, people that use the library, the new books that we acquire for the library, and the any policies that the library needs to discuss and its plans for the future. In this particular room, we've got lots of runs of, again, sort of journals and directories. So we've got Staffordshire Parish, printed Staffordshire Parish registers here, which people will consult. It's sometimes easier to consult a printed book rather than look at originals on microfiche, or increasingly people look at our parish registers online now. And if we go over to the other side of the room, we've got our trade directories. And at the beginning of the tour I mentioned that we knew a bit about the people that lived in this building from trade directories. So we've got Kelly's 1888 directory of Staffordshire, which we'll just take off the shelf and have a little look at what a trade directory can tell you. It is basically like a phone directory, which, when I said that, people used to know exactly what a telephone directory is, and obviously that's increasingly less common. They're arranged in a couple of different ways. Some of them are arranged by town or village, township or village. So we've got Coseley here. So this is historic Staffordshire. So at that point, Coseley was part of Staffordshire. It's now part of the West Midlands. So you've got there a list of private residents in Coseley at the start of the entry for Coseley. Prior to that, you get a little bit of a history of the parish of Coseley. Tells you what the schools were, how many children were at the school, and other useful information. This is so that if you were a traveller, if you were a salesman, or just travelling about the country, this trade directory would tell you what you needed to know about an area. And then here we've got, say, more private residents listed. And then it moves on to the next township. And you can see it covers the whole of the county. So we've got Wolverhampton towards the back. And then right towards the back, we've got the trades section. So we've got looking glass manufacturers listed for the county. We've got the lunatic asylums. That's very current at the moment. We've got a couple of projects running about our county mental asylums at the moment. Do check out our website if you want to look about that. So you've got the Coton Hill Institution, the County Asylum, which would be the one at in Stafford. Next we've got Majolica manufacturers. So we've got a lot of the potteries listed for Stoke-on-Trent, Hanley. And then over on the other page, we've got marine store dealers and also other things like mattress makers and manufacturers. So those are some of the things that you would find in a trade directory. We do also have their modern day equivalent. So we have still got the business pages. We keep the yellow pages. I think these days very few of us receive the yellow pages, and we have actually got some telephone directories. What you notice about the modern telephone directories, if I go up to the top shelf there, you can see they've got an awful lot thinner, so not many of us now feature in the phone book. We can look at historical ones, and it can be a useful way of tracing your modern ancestors or looking up about local business in the more recent past. And those are here in the Williamson Library. So I've just got one final item that I want to show you from our tour today. This is what's called the COMPTON census. It's a religious census that was commissioned or requested by the Archbishop of Canterbury, Henry Compton, hence the name, and it dates from 1676, and it is just that, it's a census recording the numbers of people and their level of conformity, really, the number of people conforming, the number of people not conforming. There's only two copies. The other one exists in the Bodleian Library, and we have our copy here in Stafford in the Williamson Library. And it's divided up by diocese, and you can see there's some really wonderful handwriting and illustration and calligraphy that illustrates this volume. So this is what was the Diocese of Lichfield and Coventry, as the diocese was then was known. It's obviously now just known as the Diocese of Lichfield. And in the volume, it's divided up by archdeaconry and deanery. So if we come along to, we can see some familiar Staffordshire names. So we've got, at the top, we've got Hampstall Ridware, and we've got 3 columns. So we've got, under conformists, we've got 130 conformists. We have no papists, and we have no nonconformists. So they're actually numbering the amount of people that they believe to fall into these 3 categories. So Hampstall Ridware were a very conforming village at that time. So if we come through, we will get to some different areas in the county. So we've got the Uttoxeter Deanery, again beautiful calligraphy in the volume. So for Uttoxeter, we've got 1,963 conformists, 5 papists and 32 nonconformists. But if we look at Stafford, we've got in the Stafford Deanery, again we've got 1,100 conformists, 13 papists and 155 nonconformists. So what it's telling you and why it's being compiled is, at this time it was not allowed, you were not allowed to practice as a Roman Catholic. It was not a religion that was permitted in this country. Certainly some nonconformists were not permitted, some were. And it was the way, basically, the state working out where are my problem areas. So where have I got high levels of conformity? So in Leek, we've got 2,463 conformists, no papists, 17 nonconformists. So a pretty high level of conformity. But then in other areas of the diocese, so we've got Checkley, just here. And you've got a more significant proportion of people who are papists. So you've got 39 papists and 6 nonconformists against a much smaller population. So it's basically the way of the state keeping an eye on where its problem areas were. I hope you've enjoyed the tour with me behind the scenes at the William Salt Library. It's been quite nice as librarian to give you that little sort of sneak peek behind the facade of that building that you might have always wondered what was going on behind the door. So I hope that we will be able to see you in person soon in our record office and in the library. In the meantime, please do take a look at our website. You can get to it from Staffordshire County Council's website, or just search for William Salt Library or Staffordshire Archives and Heritage. And also follow us on our social media on Twitter and Facebook, because we are sharing lots of really interesting things from our collections and some fun things for you to have a look at in our newsletter. And hope to see you in person very soon.